The movie begins with the introduction of an elite hitman named Wook who always succeeds in eliminating his targets even though they are powerful people and have great influence. To carry out his mission, he himself sets a very high price for anyone who wants to use his services to kill, which allows him to live in luxury. On the other hand, there lives a depressed man named Sung. His life is the complete opposite of Wook's. His job as an extra actor with uncertain income can't provide him a decent life, even money to pay the rent. Being financially unstable makes him so frustrated that he attempts to end his life. But luckily the landlord comes to collect the rent before he does. One day, Wook and Sung coincidentally meet in a sauna, and it is the beginning of their story. Sung thinks that the man beside him is a super rich man as he dresses well and has a lot of luxury things. As a cold-blooded assassin, Wook has a fierce aura, radiating ferocity whenever people look into his eyes. However, the prestigious image of him is gone when he accidentally slips on a soap bar. His head hits the floor and he is unconscious. Before people bring him to the hospital, Sung immediately takes this opportunity to rob this wealthy man by switching their locker key. He goes to Wook's locker room and happily takes all his belongings. He gets more cheerful when he finds out that Wook has a luxury car. Firstly, he uses the money to pay his rent which he hasn't paid for months, as well as the next few months' rent.
क्या बात कर रहे हो?
ये आप रख लीजिए। लो ये रख लो, थोड़ा लेट हो गया ना?
He then decides to visit his crush to show off his luxury things. However, the money and luxury things he has doesn't make his crush interested in him. Instead, she tells him that she is married with another man soon, making Sung so disappointed. Now he thinks that all the wealth he has is meaningless. As a result, he intends to return all the stuff he stole. But he then finds out that Wook has amnesia. He recognizes himself as Sung because Sung's locker key is the only identification on his body when he was unconscious. Hearing this, Sung decides not to return his belongings and intends to switch life with him, without knowing who Wook really is first. Sung finds Wook's address in his wallet, and he goes straight to his apartment. It turns out that Wook's apartment is 1,000 times better than the place Sung used to live in. On the other hand, Wook is finally allowed to go home because he doesn't have any serious injury. The funny thing is, when Wook is about to pay the hospital fee, he can't find any money in his wallet. It's because that wallet is supposed to be Sung's wallet. Luckily, the ambulance driver who sent him to the hospital is willing to lend him some money. Her name is Rina. Moreover, she is also willing to drive Wook home, which according to his ID is Sung's apartment. They are very surprised when they reach their apartment because Sung's apartment is very dirty and messy. Wook is trying to find any money in that filthy apartment to return Rina's money, but he still doesn't manage to find even a penny. He promises Rina that he will pay her as soon as possible. On the next day, Wook successfully cleaned that grubby place, and it became a more decent place to live. He even starts to take note of his name, age, what he likes, things he is good at, and many more. He does it to help him regain his memory. Apparently, he realizes that he is so good at handling the knife. When he tells Rina about that, Rina immediately brings him to her mother's restaurant and asks her mother to let him work there. Her mother accepts him with a heavy heart because she thinks that she doesn't really need any additional workers. Moreover, she also thinks that Wook is a liar because his face doesn't look like a 32-year-old man like he said.
32 का हूँ.
Wook tries to find out who he really is by asking his neighbors, but none of them want to talk with him. On the other hand, one of his neighbors feels disturbed by his presence, and they get into a fight.
तो परेशान क्यों कर रहा है मुझे?
This fight makes him realize that he has martial arts skills as he can beat that man easily. Meanwhile, Sung is enjoying Wook's heavenly apartment. He brings his slovenly habits into his new place. When he turns on the television, he is so shocked because he sees a sexy woman who is doing yoga through the CCTV. But he is so shocked after that girl suddenly performs a suicide-like action. Luckily, she doesn't really stab herself. Sung is so confused about what's going on. On the other hand, when he is going to grab some wine, he unexpectedly opens a door that turns out to lead him to a secret room.
क्या? ये पुलिस वाला है?
There are various weapons, many smartphones, and many police uniforms. What surprises him is, he finds a lot of pictures of that beautiful woman inside the CCTV recording. He thinks for a while and concludes that Wook is a police officer who is on a mission to monitor that woman, and that woman is under a witness protection program. That woman's name is Eun-ju. He finds out that the woman is at the same apartment building with him. Therefore, he decides to find that woman by knocking every room in that building.
Hello.
After a long time, he finally manages to find that woman. Sung's initial attempt to approach that woman doesn't go well because that woman thinks that Sung is a strange man. He even tries to approach her again on several occasions. On the other hand, Wook starts to show his talent in handling knives. That surprisingly became the main attraction of that restaurant as people were interested to see his knife skill. As a result, that restaurant is now more crowded and profitable. One day, Wook finds a note that he must go to Shinwon Station on the 25th. He goes to that station, and apparently there is a car waiting for him. It turns out that he is heading to a shooting location, and he realizes that he works as an extra actor. However, his first day working as an actor didn't go well as Wook never did acting before. Meanwhile, because he is not really sure about his identity, he decides to find his father's address, who is supposed to be Sung's father. Apparently, Sung's father works as a barber. But when he arrives there, he hears that Sung's father is not very proud of his son's work as he is just an extra actor. It makes him determined to practice acting harder to be a famous actor and make his father proud. On the other hand, Sung is still trying to secretly follow Eun-ju until he finally realizes that Eun-ju strangely always leaves her apartment every Thursday night. She always brings a huge luggage and looks like she is waiting for someone. In the next scene, we can see that Wook's hard work to change his fate slowly pays off. He starts to gain the trust of the director to play a more important role. He now gets the role of the right-hand man of the mafia boss, and it allows him to get more scenes.
Ready?
As a result, he is getting more famous and he has a lot of fans because of his humble personality. Moreover, it also makes him get closer with Rina as she is now his manager. Sung finally starts to get Eun-ju's heart, and they often spend time together, with the help of Wook's money. However, Sung's happiness turns to worry when he finds out that Wook is not a police officer. He receives a call from Wook's client who is complaining about the delay in their request, which is to kill Eun-ju. Therefore, his client asks him to meet him in person and intends to increase the offer. Now, he finds out that Wook is actually an assassin. Meanwhile, it seems that Rina starts to like Wook as she seems to be a bit jealous when Wook is going to do a kiss scene in his movie. However, because Wook never kissed before, he asks Rina to be his partner in practicing kissing. Rina immediately agrees and they start to kiss romantically.
चलो चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. Good. Okay. Good.
On the other hand, knowing that Eun-ju is in danger, Sung comes to her and explains to her that Wook is going to kill her. He also tells her that he knows the situation she is in, so he intends to save her by bringing her to a safe place. Unfortunately, they don't realize that Wook's client is monitoring them, and it makes his client very angry. So, he aims to kill them by hiring other professional assassins. Wook slowly regains his memory, and now he remembers who he really is. He comes to his apartment, and discovers that his apartment is completely a mess, just like Sung's apartment. He later finds out that his client is trying to hire another assassin to kill Eunju and Sung, because his client actually contacted his number. Lastly, he realizes that Sung took his target, Eunju, out of her apartment. Therefore, he intends to find them.
अभी कौन है?
जो भी कुछ हुआ तेरी वजह से हुआ है, समझा?
Wook finally finds Sung and Eunju. Sung is shocked, and he instructs Eunju to run. But it turns out that Wook is not the person they thought he was. He is not an assassin. Instead, all this time he saved his targets from getting killed. Wook compromised with his targets to fake their death, so his clients think that their targets are dead, and on the other hand, their targets can have a new life. A win-win solution. Apparently, Eunju was an employee of a company whose boss committed corrupt practices. Eunju has proof of her boss' crime. That's why her boss contacted Wook to eliminate the evidence of his crime, by killing her. Wook instructed her to hide and practice to commit fake suicide until the show time comes. Now, as Sung is also in danger, Wook intends to fake his death too, and he immediately confirms to his client that he accepts the deal to kill them. Meanwhile, Wook finally tells Rina that he regained his memory. However, he also tells her can't stay with Rina anymore because she has no idea who he really is. Rina is not satisfied with Wook's explanation as she has already fallen in love with him. Wook comes to the location where he is supposed to kill Sung and Rina in front of his client. However, he doesn't realize that Rina is secretly following him. She arrives at their place when they are fighting, which is actually just a setting to trick his clients. Rina almost messes up their plan when she tries to break them up, and it makes Wook very confused. But he tries his best to improvise so his clients are not suspicious. Fortunately, their plan goes well and his client believes that all three of them are dead in an accident. Sung and his crush, Eunju, finally kiss for the first time after that. At the end of the movie, Wook becomes a very famous actor and Rina is officially his girlfriend. His hard work leads him to where he is now. Meanwhile, Sung is now Wook's co-actor, which is way better than his previous role.
Ready?
Wook teaches us that success is not an accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you are doing or learning to do.